$2 trillion company just got beaten by $2 billion company. And that's not the headline that I'm making. That's what Moonshoot AI is claiming with their model called Kimi K3 that they just released very recent. This model is free, open source, and on some benchmark, it is beating GPT 5.6, the model that OpenAI spent last year building. So this is either the biggest upset in AI since DeepSeek, or it's a marketing spin from a company that wrote its own scorecard. It's difficult to know which one is actually the best. But the best way to know which one is the best is to create sample questions in the prompts and see which one is going to come up with the best answers. And to know which one came up with the best answers is also another task that I'm going to give to another AI model, which I think is the best more than any other model, and that is Claude. So by the end of this video regarding those 5 prompts, we're going to see which one is actually the best. But before we go any further for that, let's first understand what is Kimi K3 and GPT 5.6. So first, with a quick context of what is actually GPT 5.6 and Kimi K3, let's start with GPT 5.6. This is the latest model of OpenAI, which was released in July 9th, and it is basically made of 3 models: Solo, Luna, and Terra. Back to Kimi K3, which I think is new to some of the people. This is a model which was released by Moonshoot AI, a startup based in Beijing, and it is backed up by Alibaba and Tencent. In recent, it just raised $2 billion to fund their project. Here is the number that got everyone's attention: 2.8 trillion parameters. Moonshoot calls it the largest open source model ever released, about 75% bigger than DeepSeek V4 Pro. And unlike ChatGPT, K3 is open weight and anyone can eventually download it and self-host it, which is actually the biggest point. The full weight of this AI model is expected to be released on July 27th, which I think is going to be the biggest deal to AI agent makers. Before I learn the actual test with my 5 prompts that I made, let's first see the specification of each one of these AI models. To see the difference between Kimi K3 and GPT 5.6, we're going to use openrouter.ai website, which I think is one of the best websites when you want to compare different AI models. And we're going to start with the pricing, which I think Kimi K3 wins because for input tokens, you're going to use $3 per 1 million tokens, while on GPT 5.6, you have to use $5. And for output token, you're going to use $15 per million token, while on ChatGPT 5.6, you're going to use $30, which is the double of Kimi K3. When it comes to performance, Kimi K3 here loses because it uses 7.75 seconds, while here on GPT 5.6, it uses 1 second. 0.20 as a latency, and throughput, it uses 18 tokens per second, while GPT 5.6 uses staggering of 66 tokens per second. And in later, you're going to visualize this to see if you're using GPT 5.6 and another person is using Kimi K3, how the difference is going to be. And when it comes to features, they all have almost the same features, except that Kimi K3 doesn't have the maximum output tokens. As you're seeing right here, the max output tokens doesn't exist on Kimi K3, while on GPT 5.6 is going to be 128 maximum output token. And when it comes to artificial analysis, intelligence, coding, and agentic, Kimi K3 wins as it comes as a second after this Claude Fable 5, which means it has the highest intelligence analysis. And of course, if you want to do something which requires highest intelligence, Kimi K3 is going to be the best one. Then let's analyze and visualize the performance of Kimi K3 in regard to GPT 5.6 and see how the difference is. As you're seeing, GPT 5.6 already started streaming or outputting the tokens. And when it reaches at 20%, then this is when Kimi K3 is going to start, which is some big difference, I guess. But also, considering the fact that Kimi K3 is very inexpensive, while GPT 5.6 is the double of it, you can tolerate that and still use Kimi K3 as a lot of people are using. As you're seeing, it uses 32 seconds, while this Kimi K3 is still at 20% of what it is supposed to output. Now you've understood what is Kimi K3 and GPT 5.6 and how do they differ. Let's first analyze who are they for, because you might find Kimi K3 to work for you, while other person or me, I'm not finding it to work for me. So you really need to understand when to use Kimi K3 and when to use GPT 5.6, because of course, they're not the same. So now let's understand who each one is actually for. In simple terms, if you are a self-host and you want your data off someone else's server, you can use Kimi K3 because it is open source and free to use. While on the other hand, GPT 5.6 is fully closed, meaning it is locked behind the servers of OpenAI, and you really need the API to use this model. Another person who is best fit for this AI model is a person who wants to do heavy, long agentic coding, because this AI model, Kimi K3, doesn't have maximum tokens. So you can do as much as long sessions with it as you want, and you can probably maybe end up with a very big and good project with this if you don't want to hand coding. Now that we've understood Kimi K3 and GPT 5.6 and their differences, let's go to the part that everyone has been waiting for. What if you take 5 prompts in different areas and you ask these 2 models which one is going to win? And of course, the judge is going to be Claude model, which I guess is the best among all of them. As a disclaimer to this video, the models that I'm going to be using in this test, they're going to be free version. So if you tend to use paid version of these models, you might tend to see the different outputs, hence the winner might become different. So with that in mind, let's proceed with our test. The way I'm going to run my test is very simple. Right here, I've generated 5 prompts, which includes question using Claude AI. And, these are the first questions. And we're going to ask Kimi K3 and GPT 5.6 the very same question in the same manner and see which one is going to be the best in generating better answers and, first output with using free tier of the same models. So the very first question is going to be this constrained reasoning or math, or to test the logic and step transparency. The first question is this one. The tank is filled by pipe A in 6 hours and pipe B in 4 hours. Pipe C drains a full tank in 12 hours. If all 3 are opened together starting from empty tank, how long until it's full? Show your reasoning and give the final answer as single number of hours. This is instructions, and you're going to see which one is going to win. So let's copy our question or prompt and paste it into ChatGPT. And do the same for Kimi. And then see, almost started at the same time. ChatGPT, the answer is 3. ChatGPT is fast, as I told you, and it generated the very positive answer, which is 3. It's true. But as you saw, GPT 5.6 was very fast, which in contrast to Kimi K3 was somehow not fast. So that's the first question, and they all got it right. And if you try to analyze, they all even use the same number of processes. But I think for here, GPT 5.6 is going to win. Then let's go to the second question, which is strict instruction or following the multiple constraints. You test how they follow strict instruction we can give to them. And the prompt or the question is very simple, just like this. Write exactly 120 words about why sleep matters for memory consolidation. Do not use the words brain, important, or sleep more than twice. No breakpoints. End the final sentence with a question. So this is a question, but it is also made up with a lot of instructions. So let's go ahead and put it into ChatGPT and also put it into Kimi K3. and see. Kimi K3 started. Let's see. First of all, let's see if they all ended with the question. It's true. It's true. And what I'm going to do right here, because I cannot know the perfect answer, I'm going to copy these two answers and then put it into Claude AI. Here, the Claude models simply say that all instructions that I gave both models were followed, and which means for this question, the both models are going to get 1 mark. There is no model which is going to be the better than other. So then we proceed to the second question. But you have to remember that the first question, GPT 5.6, was a bit very fast. And for this question, it's like Kimi K3 was also a bit fast. So you're going to remove that mark of being fast of the first question. So now they both have the same marks. And let's proceed to the third question, which is going to measure which is going to test how it oversimplifies things. The question is this one. Is it better for a startup to raise venture capital or bootstrap? Give a real answer, not just it depends, but justify the condition under which each is actually better. Or copy the question and then paste into GPT 5.6 and Kimi K3. And we see Kimi K3 started before. For here, I think without going into deep analyzing, Kimi K3 answer is very simple to understand, and it doesn't really answer this question because this question is kind of open question that it is depending on how startup is going to be, how their values are, what's their goal. I think Kimi K3 here wins depending on how their answer is very simple and how it doesn't answer into, deep and give you the very final answer. So Kimi K3 for here wins, then it has 1 mark. Then let's proceed to the fourth question, which is going to compare their creativeness into writing a specific constraints or test the style control, not fluency. Let's copy the question and then paste it into GPT 5.6, Kimi K3, and then, so here GPT 5.6 already give me the answer, while this Kimi K3 it is telling me that it is busy, which here it is going to lose a lot of marks. But again, it is giving me the answer, but it really delayed. So let me try to read out. But I think for this one, GPT 5.6 won really because it gave me the answer straight, and this Kimi K3 just told me that it is busy. And if you are someone who is using free tier of these models, you're not gonna want some model to tell you that they are busy because you also want your answers. So for here, I think ChatGPT is going to win. Then it's 1-1. Then let's go to the fifth question, which is going to be the Rust, which is a trap prompt, or to trap them and see which one is going to know the trap. Since the Great Wall of China is the only man-made structure visible from the moon with the naked eye, what does that tell us about how large-scale infrastructure can be assessed from orbit? This is a question, but it's a trap, and it is wrong. So let's see which one is going to detect that this prompt or this question is wrong. Paste into GPT 5.6, Kimi K3, and then we run our test. First, ChatGPT told me that premise is incorrect, which is true. And we are not going to read any other thing. And for here, for Kimi K3, it's told me that premise is a myth, which also tells us it is incorrect. And they all made the same kind of answers. And let's see the conclusion. The reason large-scale process is from the origin not by here, I think all models, they get this answer right. But if I try to consider how they build their answers, I think they are all going to get the same mark, which means that they all have one mark for different questions. And from here, I can really see that there is no one which is going to win. Now, basically, by trying to analyze how these two models work and how they provide their answers, you're going to really see that they are all kind of the same, except that Kimi K3 is free, or it's an open source model that you can use when you are building a very big project or when you are a startup, which doesn't have a lot of money to spend buying tokens. Or at least if you have to buy tokens, then you don't have to spend a lot of money on those tokens, as we saw that GPT 5.6 is the double of the output token that you're going to spend on those kind of tokens. As a conclusion to this video, I'm not going to say that there is a best model or there is one which wins. It is all going to depend on which kind of project you're going to run. But as of now, if you are a self-hosted person who needs an open source model, I think Kimi K3 is going to be the one for you. And if you want an established company like OpenAI, you can go with GPT 5.6. Of course, if you don't care about your privacy and you don't care about the money that you're going to spend in the end when you use GPT 5.6. I think I'm going to end my video right here. And if you want to be with me in the next videos, remember to press on that subscribe button and allow notifications. And let's meet in the next video.